Page 102, exercises 7.1 and 7.2. I'm going to cover them both. Talking about a technique for two-note slurs. Now in exercise 7.1, they are putting, in the first line, they're putting the accent on the first note, the staccato on the second. They're talking about here is using the wrist to handle this two-note slur stuff, and they're kind of putting the wrist in front and say the wrist controls what's going on. I don't know that I totally agree with that, but let me just discuss what's going on here. When you play the first note, your wrist is coming down, it'll collapse a little bit, and then the wrist lead's going up, so it's down, up, down, up, down, up. They're putting an accent on the first note and a staccato on the second. That's fine if they want. Doesn't have to be that way, but it's okay. And I kind of let the wrist lead what's going on. I don't mentally think the wrist is controlling anything, but if you want to think that, that's up to you. And there doesn't just have to be two notes. Look at the last measure, you got three. It's the same, down, up, and then up on the last one. Both hands, because if you look at the beginning of the first line, you have right hand above and left hand below, and they give finger numbers on both. So the left hand can play it, they're saying an octave lower, so you come down here. Both hands together. It's a good exercise. It's a good technique to learn. In the second line, now we have more notes. Here. I'm still kind of down and up, down and up type thing. And then the last little bit where you have several eighth notes, I'm going down and staying down until the end, and then I come up. The rest is not so much doing a lot when you get a lot of them. I'm talking on two-note slurs and maybe even three-note slurs. This motion comes in handy. Now when you originally play any phrase, you can come down at the beginning of the phrase, and at the end of the phrase you come up, because when you go between phrases it's an up, a lift. So that's just typical, because so on the second line it's, I'm going to exaggerate these, because normally when you come up you're not coming way up off the keyboard, just a little bit. Your hand hardly moves off the keys at all. So you do it, but then when you get a lot of notes together, you come down at the beginning of it and you're basically staying down until the end. Now in exercise 7.2, as I said before, the first note doesn't necessarily have to have the accent. And here, the second note gets the accent, so it's here. Watch the fingering here, it's 1, 3. So you have to, the accent's what's important, and when you're coming up and you want to accent, you're just kind of giving a little, almost a little whip thing here. And then there at the end of the, when you have the four notes in one phrase, accent goes on the E, but as you come up off the C, that's not accented. But you still come up. I'd use a finger staccato on the D. So here, and there's no accent here. Well, in a way there is, because you have a natural accent at the beginning of each measure. Type thing. And the second note of a slur doesn't have to be staccato. It could be a full note. But the wrist is still doing its thing. So in my mind, the finger is really controlling what's going on and the wrist is helping it out. I think the book tends to indicate the wrist is controlling it. Well, you work it out yourself and you figure out who's doing what. Is the tail wagging the dog or the dog wagging the tail? Let's see. And of course the left hand can play that an octave lower. Good technique to learn. It's a little awkward at first, but a good technique to learn.